also in Washington, the new Congress convenes for the first time this afternoon. It's going to be interesting. The first order of business is to elect a new speaker, and that's where the drama begins. Kevin McCarthy's bid for the chamber's top spot now in limbo. Why is that? Bringing former White House Deputy Chief of Staff Karl Rove, Mark Penn, former Clinton pollster and advisor, now CEO at Stagwell, both are Fox News contributors. And gentlemen, good to have you both on today. Karl, I'm going to begin with you and just get a sense for fundamentally those who oppose McCarthy. What do they want? What do they not see in him? Now, Scott Perry is a Republican from Pennsylvania. He was not part of those 5 who objected to him, so he's in another batch now. And he put out a statement 2 hours ago that said, we want him to agree to a vote on a balanced budget, a Texas border plan, term limits, individual earmarks voted on the floor of the House. And he's making the case that McCarthy will not agree to that. Is that fundamentally where it is, or do you see it a different way?
No, I think you're right. There are 5 members who say they won't vote for him under any circumstances. That's enough to, if they hold strong, that's enough to complicate his life enormously. But there are 9 others. You're right. Perry, Chip Roy of Texas, Crane of Arizona, freshman member, Bishop of North Carolina. There are 9 other members who sent him a letter saying, we're not inclined to vote for you unless you agree to a whole series of changes. Now, he's made a lot of those changes, which are many of them, esoteric rules changes that do have some real importance to the outcomes in the House. But whether or not that's enough to first get the 9 members to sort of begin to support him, one person who had said he would not support him, Morgan Griffin of Virginia, after McCarthy said, I'll agree to certain items, said, that's enough for me, I'm now going to support him. But we are likely to see on this first ballot at least 14 votes against him out of the 222 Republicans, and maybe a few more besides that.
Well, if it goes that way, then, Mark, where does that leave the Republicans now in majority of the House that they fought so hard for?
Well, certainly from the Democrats' perspective, it's get out the popcorn. Who knows? Somebody may even make a parliamentary mistake and elect a Democrat speaker. Maybe they'll even go outside. The speaker doesn't even have to be, a member of Congress. Look, I think the Republican Party here is looking, disunited, disorganized. And part of the reason that they didn't win is that they didn't really have a framework for the election that the voters felt confident about, and I think this is just showing exactly that.
Well, give me call for 2 guys. Here's Newt Gingrich on Monday. He wasn't holding back, the former speaker.
The choice is Kevin McCarthy or chaos. And there's nobody going to replace Kevin because he has far more people totally dedicated to him than this handful of never-enders. And the result's going to be anybody who tried to replace Kevin would face total chaos. It would be impossible to govern. I think it's a remarkably short-sighted and candidly selfish position.
What do you make of that, Karl? When you know the margins matter in a midterm vote, had Republicans won more seats, McCarthy would not be in this situation.
Absolutely. And look, let's be clear. One of the leaders, if not the leader, is a congressman from Virginia named Bob Good, who said basically, I don't care who the speaker is as long as it's not somebody who's in current leadership. I want to blow up the Republican Party. This is a guy who got elected 2 years ago only after Kevin McCarthy raised and spent $1.5 million to get him elected in a safe Republican seat, and the National Republican Congressional Committee spent $1.2 million. They spent $2.7 million to elect this guy in what should have been a safe seat because he was a weak candidate, and now he says, I'm in charge. I've got 4 other knuckleheads who agree with me, and we're going to blow it up. And all we want to do is get somebody different than the people who are now in charge. That's a really short-sighted and, as the former speaker said, selfish motivation.
Mark, do you have a prediction for how this goes? I mean, we've been talking about drama today for hours. How's it work out?
Look, usually politicians are famous for coming down to midnight, to the very last moment, and then they come together. I still think there's a reasonable chance that happens. That's what intelligent politicians would do here. If that doesn't happen, Newt Gingrich said it best. The Republican Party's in for chaos, and that chaos is not going to stop with today. That is just an indication of more chaos and a caucus that maybe can't be led at a margin that's unsustainable. I think there's a lot of problems until the Republicans have a presidential nominee that could show a lot of drift in the party. unless they get their act together by the end of the day and unify in a solid way and show that kind of unity, which, as Karl said in a clear bout of frustration, that doesn't look like it's happening.
Otherwise, it's chaos. Mark Penn, Karl Rove, thank you, gentlemen. Great to have you both on today.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.